Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Observation Deck. It would seem that things are moving fast on the subject of what I am now calling Fauci's bogus national banner, if you understand what I'm saying, because I can see no other way to put it. People are only now beginning to reveal the true nature of this global situation and how it seems to have been orchestrated by the select few who I hope will be held to account. So let's take a look at the latest evidence beginning to emerge, not within the alternative camps, since many of us knew about this a long time ago. But the light at the end of this particular tunnel is the fact that some mainstream media outlets are now actually asking the right questions, beginning to get to the bottom of this sordid affair to place the world at the disposal of unelected technocrats who, because of their wealth, seems to think they have the right to tell everyone else how to live their lives. And obviously, Fauci is part of that elect few. So let's not hang about any longer. I'll see you on the inside. I'm going to jump straight into a clip asking the question about the $3.7 million grant given to China, specifically Wuhan lab for the CV research, as you can hear in the President Trump's briefing here.
Mr. President, U.S. intelligence is saying this week that the coronavirus likely came from a level 4 lab in Wuhan. There's also another report that the NIH under the Obama administration in 2015 gave that lab $3.7 million in a grant. Why would the U.S. give a grant like that to China?
The Obama administration gave them a grant of $3.7 million. I've been hearing about that. And we've instructed that if any grants are going to that area, we're looking at it literally about an hour ago, and also early in the morning. We will end that grant very quickly, but it was granted quite a while ago. They were granted a substantial amount of money. We're going to look at it and take a look, but I understand it was a number of years ago, right?
So
when did you hear was the grant was made?
2015.
2015. Who was president?
Now let's jump over to the interview held on Next News Network about the very same
question, that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. There will be a surprise outbreak. There will be a surprise outbreak.
The next clip is in a White House briefing where Fauci was asked if this virus was actually made in Wuhan at a laboratory, and listen to how the guy sits there and answers the question, knowing full well that he'd already sanctioned $3.7 million for that very research. Listen to what this guy has to say.
Dr. Fauci, could you address these suggestions or concerns that this virus was somehow man-made, possibly came out of a laboratory in China? You studied this virus. What are the prospects of that?
There was a study recently that we can make available to you where a group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists looked at the sequences there and the sequences in bats as they evolve.
Okay, so before we allow Fauci to talk any further, I'm going to zip over to a website because he's standing there answering that question, talking about the Chinese as if he has absolutely no knowledge of these experts that he was talking about and his supporting of the laboratory work that was actually going on in Wuhan at the time. So let's just take a quick look at the websites so you can make damn sure that as he's answering this question, he's kind of forgetting all of the grimy little details that I am now going to show you here. So my first quick stop, when in actual fact, was the CV of this reporter here. This researcher, should I say, senior scientists. The current employer, Wuhan Institute of Virology. There's a coincidence. And what I was looking for was, now this gives you this guy's background, because obviously he researches focus on the molecular epidemiology and interspecies infection mechanisms of emerging zoonotic viruses, bat-borne viruses. So that should ring a bell. And he goes on about SARS, COVID and all the rest of it. But what I want to bring to your attention is grants received over the last 5 years, and you can see here that it's from the research program in China National Natural Science Foundation of China, yada yada yada. And then if we go back to 2014, you'll notice that the ecology of bat coronaviruses and the risk of future coronavirus emergence. Okay, now I know we were talking about that in terms of 2015, but going back even further than that, you can see here that it was the NIARID, and you've even got the actual grant number here to the tune of just over $500,000 US, and that was even before the 2015 debacle of that moratorium going on, which says basically stop doing this because it has no bearing on medicine, but obviously it's very, very handy if you want to use it for a bioweapon. But this is in 2015, where they gave, where Fauci signed off on $3.7 million. And I really want you to remember that 3.7 or 37 number, because I am going to be coming back to that a little bit later. But the point being is that here we have a clear backing of the coronavirus, and Fauci is standing there answering that guy's question as if he doesn't know anything about this at all. And this goes back even further. But I want to go to another website just to make it absolutely clear that this has been going on for quite some time. And although Wuhan has been used, it is basically being an outsourced partner for Fauci's little foray into coronavirus, as he stands there and gives these White House briefings as if he knows nothing about what's been going on over in China, when all the time he's been paying for it. Let's have a look at another website. So on this website we've got Europe PMC, which is another research institute site with all of the peer-reviewed papers, with the amusing title, but not so amusing for us here in the present day and age, to cull or not to cull? Bat is the question. This is dated from EcoHealth on the 2nd December 2015, which is around the time that Fauci gave the $3.7 million. And without going into that, I mean, it's clear that it's talking about the same bat viruses and jumping from one species to another, which personally I think is absolutely impossible unless it's given some kind of help in a laboratory. But I just want to bring your attention to this bit before I move on. The most significant pandemic of our era that has killed more than 39 million people and currently infects another 37 million, and this is back in 2015 from the WHO report. I'm not going to click that link because I want to stay here, but I do want you, now remember this has been going since 2015, and I want you to remember that 37 million, because you know it kind of seems like you've only got to put a decimal point in the middle of that and you've got 3.7 million again. And believe me when I tell you that at the end of this particular episode, for all of those that are into numerology and the idea that these evil forces in the world have to tell us in a subtle way, because it's their spiritual belief, what's coming, and they link these little codes together, in this case using numerology with each other. Now you might think I'm going off one at the moment, but let's stick with Fauci and the information. But we will be definitely covering this 37 million or 3.7 million before the end of this episode. And I suppose there will be people out there that said to me, Robin, you're losing the plot. Well, just wait and see what I've got to show you. But what I want to show you this is funding. Let me just jump straight to funding. The funders who supported this work, there you go. So there's the 2 grants from the NIH that funded this. To cull or not to cull? That is the question back in 2015. So that's another example that I wanted to show you, and it was being funded by Fauci's little organization, and I suspect that given the date, he also wrote the check for that. Let's check just one more. So this was a news release. New coronavirus emerges from bats in China, devastates young pigs, young swine. This was April 4th, 2018. All right, so let's just jump down to this. It says investigators confirm the connection of SARS-CoV bats by identifying the new virus in the small intestine of piglets from the outbreak. They then determined that the genetic sequence of this, similar to that of the bat's coronavirus discovered in 2017, and look for evidence of the SARS-CoV in bat specimens collected from 2013 to 2016 in Guangdong province. Now, if you don't know where Guangdong province is, well, that is exactly where the Wuhan laboratory is. The new virus tested in 71, and the point being is that it was funded again by none other than the guy now standing up answering that question as if and obviously keeping his verbal distance from all of this that he knew about full well. But I just want to give you a very quick and concise explanation of why all this has taken place, why there is a link between the Gates Foundation, Fauci, World Health Organization, all the rest of it. And as Alex Jones points out in this very quick clip, and he wraps it up in a very short sentence. Have a listen to this.
So the virus is real, and it came out of a Wuhan bioweapons lab, but only so big foundations could own the RNA of the virus to have a vaccine later. They couldn't patent the regular cold virus, which you can't have a vaccine for because it mutates. So you create a new cold virus, it's a chimera, then you can patent that and own the vaccine, own the hysteria, own the test, own the societal control. And so again, if people don't realize that this is all a psyop, fear-mongering exercise.
Let's get back to his continuing answer now that you've known where they're getting the research money from, to what this reporter had to say.
And the mutations that it took to get to the point where it is now is totally consistent with a jump of a species from an animal to a human.
What a load of shit!
The paper will be available. I don't have the authors right now, but we can make that available too.
Is giving away a lot of money. We give away for many years, they give away a lot of money. And some people complain and some people don't. Some people are extremely happy. So we're looking into that also. They're giving away approximately, as I understand it, recently more than $32 billion a year. $32 billion. And so we've been looking at that for a while, and we're going to be having some statements to be made about that. $32 billion a year. It's a lot of money, and we want to make sure it's being spent wisely, and we've been doing that, by the way. And we also talked about the lab in China, where I guess 3.7 million was given some time ago, and we're looking at that very closely. Chief of Staff has that pretty much under control, but it's money that, too bad it got spent there. But that was spent, what year was that, Mark? It was 4 or 5 years ago.
Over the last 6 years.
6 years ago, approximately.
I think the case is clear that Fauci is in for a hard time. And I hope he is, along with the unelected technocrats that think that they are above anybody's law just because they have money. A fool can see the cash flow and the impact that all this has had on the rest of the world. But I want to now move over to something else which came up because of the clips that we've just seen on Dr. Fauci, and that is the 3.7 million. Because it seems strange to me, as I hope it will seem obvious to you, But for now, all you doubters that these people, when I say these people, I'm talking about evil and dark forces, that these people use various types of signals, in this case 3.7 million or the number 37. All I would ask you is, when does something stop being a coincidence and start forming a pattern of behaviour? And in this case, I stumbled on that particular number, 37. So before I get into that number, by which you now know is 3.7 or 37 or a derivative thereof, let me make sure you fully understand what many are calling the mark of the beast, as in the ID chip along with the vaccination from the Gates Foundation, who, as many of you will already know, has very strong links financially with Dr. Fauci and the World Health Authority. So let's get into this last section, which I hope some of you gematria and numerologists, and even those who are not, can stop saying, well, this is all just coincidences, because there's far too many. So let me explain. There exists an interesting relation between the number 37 and 666. In so much as this, from 666 we obtain 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, and 18 times 37 equals 666. Did you get that? Works either way. So there is a direct correlation between this message of evil, 666, mark of the beast, and the number 37, or in this case 3.7. So now I want to take you on a very quick journey and ask you, when does coincidence stop being a coincidence? Have a look at these links very quickly with me. So I haven't got the sites in any particular order. So we're on the White House briefing site, by the way, and I'm going to very quickly run through the 37 or mark of the beast 666 references and see if you guys end up agreeing with me or thinking, oh, Rob, you've completely lost the plot. But part of the White House briefing is, and 6 weeks ago we had performed some 25,000 tests, and at this day from the 17th we have performed 3.7 million tests, which obviously $3.7 million was the same amount that we've just been looking at with Fauci. Now let's jump over to site number 2. How about the York Dispatch, as we've got it here, at 3.7 million gun background checks smashed FBI records. And this was April the 1st, 2020, April Fool's Day. So they're really beast 666 taking the piss on April Fool's Day. But again, it's probably just a coincidence. Let's have a look at the next one. This is from the UK and it's the Mail Online, but it's still talking about US farmers dump 3.7 million gallons of milk every day and plough fresh vegetables back into the soil because restaurants, hotels and schools have closed due to the coronavirus. And there you go again, 3.7 million. But hey, just a coincidence. Let's move on to the next one. And here we come to Forbes. Goldman Sachs predicts 37 million jobs lost by the end of May, expecting that the US total unemployment claims could reach 37 million for the period between March and the end of May, obviously because of the coronavirus crisis. So there you go. And we've got another 37. Let's go to the next one, because obviously the next one's just a coincidence as well. And this one's from here in the UK, just to let you know that it's a global conspiracy and not a local one. 37 million in COVID-19 grants being issued to local businesses in the Chichester district. And there you go, because of the COVID-19 crisis. All right, but again, remember, 37 is just a coincidence. Let's move on. How about the World Bank? If you know they're involved in it, then you know that that number 37 has got to mean something in terms of the mark of the beast. World Bank approves 37 million support for COVID-19 response in Malawi. And this was April the 15th. So it's really up and running, people. Very, very well. The mark of the beast, 666, hidden in the number 37, which you now know exactly how. Let's move to the next coincidence. Here's a post on Instagram from The Daily Show, and I'm sure you'll recognise this chap. And it says here, look at this. Dr. Fauci receives security detail and a record 6.6 million Americans file for unemployment and 3.7 million stock up on guns. There you go again, folks. But it's just a coincidence and it's not really anything to do with 666, is it? Let's move on. Alright, so this is an obvious one because we've just been speaking about it, COVID-19 conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy, it's a fact, it's on record. I don't know why people bother writing this word. Is it true that the US government gave 3.7 million grant to Wuhan labs? Well, it's true that Fauci represented the government, but he signed off on it. So let's not just sort of spread the blame, let's just focus it on the butthole that actually did it. Let me move on. So now we've had the World Bank, we've had Fauci, now let's bring the US in. 3.7 million lives could be saved by 2025 if health services ramp up nutrition action, says the World Health Authority, obviously backed by the United Nations. And again, we have the same number. I'm only going to give you the headlines, I'm not going to go into the detail, but we've got that same thing popping up again. But again, it's just a coincidence, isn't it? And what about CNBC? China trade deficit has cost the US 3.7 million jobs this century, report says. The US's deficit with China has continued to grow according to the Economic Policy Institute. Blah, blah, blah. 3.7 million jobs. Just a coincidence, people? Are you starting to get the picture now? Let's move on. This is an interesting one about the COVID-19 response team at the Imperial College here in the UK. The counterfactual model for Italy suggests that despite mounting pressure on the health systems, interventions have averted a healthcare catastrophe where the number of new deaths would have been 3.7 times higher. 38,000 deaths averted. Ooh, that was close, wasn't it? But don't worry, look. Than currently observed. Even in the UK, much earlier in this epidemic, the recent interventions are forecast to avert, 370 total deaths up to the 31st of March. There we go again. It's all to do with COVID, so there seems to be an awful lot of 37 popping up all over the place. But are you still thinking that it's just a coincidence or something more? Let's continue. I mean, come on, let's get a little bit silly here, shall we? MSN. How COVID-19 disrupted the flow of 3.7 million boxes of Girl Guide cookies. Really? Is that worth... I think they're just taking the mick. They really are. About 3.7 million boxes of classic Girl Guide cookies, the chocolate and vanilla variety, was sent out from bakers to local groups this spring because of COVID-19. Come on, people. When are you going to wake up? I've got more. How about Medibank for better health? New COVID-19 health program to support 3.7 million Medibank and AHM customers. There you go again. And again, I'm not going to bother reading it. This is what I'm trying to point out to you people. The mark of the beast is alive and well, as you can see here. But is it seriously just a coincidence? How about US aid? Statement by US aid administrator Mark Green on the commitment of 37 million in assistance to respond to the novel coronavirus COVID-19. This was the 2nd of March 2020. Are you still with me, people? Or do you still think that this is a coincidence? And by the way, by now I've given you 13 examples, all directly connected to this and this and the mark of the beast. Do you still believe in coincidences? How about news from the European Parliament? COVID-19 Parliament approves crucial EU support measures. Wonder what those support measures are. The Coronavirus Response Investment Initiative. These are approved proposals. These measures are meant to channel, 37 billion from available EU funds as soon as possible to citizens. 37 billion. we're back to the mark of the beast yet again. Let me know when to stop. I mean, I've given you now, 15 examples of hidden mark of the beast in plain sight. I think I've proved my case, my lord, beyond the shadow of a doubt. And just to push it home, it's not just about money. I've come to Wikipedia, as you can see here. We're talking about the transmission of COVID. And let's have a look at what they say down here. It may also spread when I'm in the wrong place. Studies have found that an uncovered cough can lead to droplets traveling up to 4.5 meters or 15 feet to 11.4 meters, which is 37 feet. So the transmission, we've even got 37 sitting in the transmission of COVID virus, which is created the social distancing in the first place. Ain't that a coincidence? All of these 37s, and they're pushed into everywhere in front of your face in plain sight, and it's all about the mark of the beast. I mean, the thing is, I could go on, but this is about the province invests 37 million, again, assists First Nations during COVID-19 pandemic. And this is from April the 8th, 2020, Thunder Bay, with the First Nations community particularly vulnerable to an outbreak of COVID-19. All right, the province is investing 37 million to support First Nation communities during the COVID-19. I don't think I really need to go anymore because I've given you probably 15 to 20 examples directly related to COVID-19, the ID 2020 mark of the beast, and how 37 is basically a euphemism for 666. And it's popped up over 20 different links that I've just shown you. And I just wanted to finish on this last one, back to the United Nations, and ironically, given the lockdown across the world, it's all about human rights. And in November, only November last year, the Human Rights Committee met. The revised draft general comment number 37 on Article 21. The right of peaceful assembly, how ironic, of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Number 37. So this, literally, 37 relates directly to what was taken away by the beast. On November the 19th, during its 127th 127th session. Guys, check this out. In November 2019. Okay, 2 + 1 is 3. 37. It's 127th session. Oh my God. The Human Rights Committee finalised the first reading of the draft General Comment 37. So we've got 666, and it was in fact the meeting session of 666. And directly related to the right of peaceful assembly, which was removed during this scamdemic. Oh, and before I forget, it wouldn't be complete unless we mentioned Satan himself, Bill Gates. And it says here, a woman gets Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates a secret Santa, and she receives in return 37 kilograms of gifts. Now, I have a question for all of you. All right, and that is, why would you describe the gifts somebody receives in the terms using weight? Why wouldn't you just say something like, she received in return, 120 gifts, or a gift's big enough to fill a Santa sack or something? Why say specifically 37 kilograms? So that in itself should ask the question. But hey, let's not let Gates off the hook too soon, because obviously my favourite phrase at the moment is the Bill Gates of hell have been opened. Let's have a look at another one. How about Bill Gates has read nearly all 37 books by this scientist? Here are 7 of his favourites. Yeah, whatever. Okay, this science, was it? Václav Smil, in Czech Canadian scientist and professor. He's nearly all of his books in topics like food production, energy, public policy and the environment. So basically, he's learned a lot from this guy and then completely twisted it to meet his Beastmaster. And why not finish up on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation press release? Here we go. Look, vaccines against major childhood diseases to reach 37 more countries from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations. I hope we've actually finally got you to realize this is the mark of the beast, and this is how they communicate their loyalty to it. And of course, when you see stuff like this in The Guardian or any other mainstream media, dismay at Gates Foundation prize for Narendra Modi. 37 development academics and practitioners condemn the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation over its intention to give the Goalkeepers Global Awards to the Indian Prime Minister. Question being is, now that we know all about 37 and the mark of the beast 666, one, is The Guardian saying, it's okay, Bill, we're in with you? Or is the 37 development academics and practitioners just simply controlled opposition? Now, I bet you did not think this episode was going to link all of this together at the outset. And yet, for those who have stopped believing in coincidences, which by now I hope is most of you, the biggest war machine on the planet is controlled from the Pentagon, as we all know. The Pentagon or pentagram, call it what you like. But it may not serve you. It may well serve others masquerading as patriots. And why do I say this? Well, let's take a little look at this detail, and then I'm going to show you a final couple of links, since this is, after all, in essence, a history channel, and I'm going to reveal just how far, how deep this transposition of 666 to 37 goes into our distant past and the very essence of who we are. Let's take a look at this. So we're on defense1.com, and it's telling a story about the Pentagon bars most guest travellers starting on Monday. But that's not the focus. Our focus is this recurring theme of 666 and 37 or 3.7. And it doesn't take a genius to work out that, as I say, one of the biggest war machines the history has ever known, which is coordinated from obviously the Pentagon itself. Look at this. What are the odds? At 3.7 million square feet, the Pentagon is the enormous headquarters of the US military. 3.7? How many times does 3.7 need to come up? This actually intrigued me, and I know this might open old wounds, people, but I'm going to share it with you, and as always, I'm just giving you the information. And we already know that 3.7 or 37 is a looped derivative of 666, which I've already shown you. I'll put it back up on the screen as you can see there, just as a reminder. The 3.7 million we started out with as a loan to Wuhan sent me down this rabbit hole, although I had looked at this one before, but not in so much detail. But take a look at this particular site, which is the US National Library of Medicine, mitochondrial DNA. And for those of you who've studied this little number keeps coming up all over again. Mitochondrial DNA contains 37 genes, all of which are essential for normal function. So I told you it was going to go to the very essence of who we are, but it gets even better, because one of the reports here, and you might think I'm going out on the fringes here, but after all, as I said, this is a history channel. You will see in a second. Aliens create our genetic code and sign it with the number 37, scientists say. The answer to all origin of life may be the number 37, which could prove that our genetic code was created by ancient aliens, according to a new scientific theory. This is March 20th, 37. The notion that life on Earth has alien origins is nothing new, but a pair of researchers believe that they have cracked the ancient code, which proves that life was planted on Earth by extraterrestrial beings. And again, I'm just giving you the information, guys, and does not alter it as it passes down through generations. They note that the number 37 crops up several times. One instance is that the mass of the molecular core shared by all 20 amino acids is 74, which is 37 doubled. There are a total of 28 codons, which have a total atomic mass of 1665 and a combination side chain of atomic mass of 703, both of which are multiples of 37. The scientists have a total of 9 examples in their research paper published in Icarus, where they state that the chances of the number 37 appearing as many times by random in the genetic code is staggering, 1 in 10 trillion. So I don't care whether or not you're a fringe conspiracy theorist about the alien seeding of our planet. If you're just a statistician and you're looking at the data, you've got a staggering 1 in 10 trillion chance that it's not the case. All right, now I'm not going to go any further with this because it's, as I say, it's entirely up to you. I mean, God, how do we get from Dr. Fauci's 3.7 million and the mark of the beast to 37, and we're now way out in space? But I just love connecting all the dots. But for those of you who like my history side of things, let's go back to Sumerian language, because you see, the thing is about Sumerian language, unlike our modern language, is, if I can find it for you guys, here we go. Did you know that the Sumerian alphabet and our mitochondrial DNA have a connection? Because it talks about modern Persian. When he recovered the rest of the text in 1843, it's talking about I think Henry Rawlinson. He and others were gradually able to translate the Elamite and Akkadian sections of our Sumerian language, starting with the 37 signs he had deciphered from Old Persian. In other words, the Sumerian language, and obviously those of you who've listened to my channel in the past would figure out very quickly the Anunnaki and all of this kind of stuff, okay, they had 37 signs in their alphabet. I mean, we could call it 37 letters, but we've got obviously 26 at the moment. But the ancient Sumerians had 37 letters in their alphabet, which is why this seems incredible, to say the least. And it also connects everything together in terms of, remember guys, I mean, irrespective of whether you believe this or not, if you don't believe it, like the guy was actually saying, we're talking about the odds of it being random are 10 trillion to 1. So if you don't believe me, believe the damn data, guys, because there it is staring you right in the face. So we've gone from $3.7 million to over 20 examples of it. And 37, as I've said, is a looped way of distributing the idea of 666, and it permeates every asset and facet of our history. And I personally think it is a sign or a secret language used by the elite to actually say, we're on board. And there you go, guys. Number 37 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. 37, or should I say 3.7 million square feet. Is all of this a coincidence? I'll leave you to decide it for yourself. But at the end of the day, I think not. And just to wrap up the idea of the 666 connection and the idea that we're going to go over to crypto digital currency, ID 2020, and all the rest of it, I just want to bring you this, which you've probably never seen because it was only published recently. And look at this. Look at the number 1. Okay, so it's the year 2020, 0060606666. And what does it do? Cryptocurrency system using body activated data. In other words, a chip. Okay, this is your body chip. And if that wasn't enough, and we've already linked the Gates Foundation to it, look who the applicant was. Microsoft Technology. Okay, there you go, guys. I just wanted to finish on that, just in case there was anybody left doubting that the future is here and now, and unless we do something about it, we are going to get caught up in the mark of the beast. because we've got 666. Is that still a coincidence? Let me wrap it up for you. Well, I hope you've had enough to know that at the outset of this episode, you came to understand not only is there a rot so deep within our democratic system, but that the beast has its claws in every conceivable area of influence. And the $3.7 million that was given to Wuhan and the number 37 is simply a code used by the satanic worshippers across the world. And I hope that if you found this episode interesting and helpful, then please share, like and subscribe. And please remember to support my work in any way you can via PayPal, Patreon or Bitcoin, because you people know as well as I do that YouTube is part of that system and demonetize everything that goes up almost instantaneously nowadays, in the hopes that people like myself and other creators that bring you the truth will go out of business or simply stop uploading because, well, we've got to go out and get a job to support ourselves. So remember, as always, question everything, believe nothing, and stay curious. And in this case, people, please stay safe. I'll see you on deck very soon.